Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to my second show, Believe, where we look to inspire, influence, and impact others. I'm so excited and grateful to have all of you here today, those who are joining me live and those who will watch the playback. I really appreciate it. The other reason why I'm excited, even though this is only my second show, this is also the first time I have on my show a guest, and it is Lanita Hostin. She is an award winning speaker, author, and entrepreneur, and we're going to have the privilege of being able to hear what her journey has been like. Before we do that, Lanita, I want to ask you this question I'll be asking all of my guests on the fourth Sunday of our show.
Okay.
When you hear the word believe, what comes to your mind?
The confidence to expect that the things you desire can happen. So it's a confidence thing. When I hear the word believe, I think confidence. Like, it can happen. Yeah.
No, and I'm glad you shared that because my first show was about confidence, right? The confidence we need to have in order to, I feel, act or move. Like, if you're not confident, you're not going to move or act. But people who usually feel like they're confident and doing something, they're usually going to take action. They're going to
That's
do
true.
something. And then there's that confidence we have in God that just exceeds our limitations and, where we feel like we don't have the ability to, our confidence in God helps us to even move higher. It kind of makes us feel like we can do those impossible things.
Yep.
So I'm glad you shared that. One of the things I'm looking forward to in having this show with you as my guest is to be able to hear about like where your journey has taken you over time. But in the short time that we have, I want to hear from you about what are your thoughts about when you always hear me say my former student, Lanita Hostin, because I've known this young lady since she's been in middle school.
Yeah, this is true.
What are your thoughts when you hear that?
I can't believe it. That's essentially, I met you in 2001. It's 2021. That's 20 years. And to be honest, the quality of our relationship has not changed. It's always been nurturing. It's always been supportive. And I feel like it taught me that relationships aren't based on proximity. Because obviously I went to high school, college, and then grew up, and then there's still this connection that never changed. So it taught me a valuable lesson about relationships. And we're responsible for, if we desire that type of relationship, we're responsible for maintaining it and feeding it. And so I think we've both done a great job at that.
Yeah, amen. And to this day, I tell her, she inspires me. It's not a one-way relationship where I'm sewing into her. Just watching her journey inspires me. I think of that verse, since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, just watching her journey inspires me. So I don't want to delay. I really want to allow the people to get a chance to know you now that they know you're a former student. But what I do want them to know about you is the things that you do. So when we come back, I want to hear about Excellence Academy.
Okay.
And then I also want to be able to hear about you. You wrote another book. So I've been coaching you a long time ago as it relates to being a published author.
Yeah, you did.
So on the other side of our break, we're going to hear Lanita talk about Excellence Academy. And before our show ends, she's going to talk to us about the book that she's currently pursuing to be released in November 2021. right, so welcome back. Those of you who are still with us, thank you. I am here with my former student and guest, Lanita Hostin, and we've had the opportunity to let her kind of share what that experience has been like in her relationship with me, both as an educator and mentor. But now she's going to talk to us about what she's doing in her life post-college career. And so, Lanita, talk to us about Excellence Academy. What is it? Just to let you know, I hired her to have her work with both of my children regarding Excellence Academy. So I recommend it to any parent who's looking to do this for their child. But for our audience sake, help us understand Excellence Academy and what it is.
Very plainly put, it's a 16-week post-high school graduation plan program. In plain language, so no marketing language, no little crazy stuff. But the intent is that when your student graduates high school, they're very clear on how they're going to leverage their post-high school pathway. So if that's college, trade school, military, starting a business, how they're going to do that is mapped out in 16 weeks. So at a very high level, that's what it is. And, you know, I got started in that work because it was my story. It was my story. I went to Towson University. I studied communications. And I came home. I had an amazing college experience. And I was active in everything. I came home, and for 6 months, I couldn't find a job. And everyone told me to go to college, and if you do, you will be ahead. There's a head start. And it gave me the illusion that if I just graduated, that would be enough. And I quickly learned that that was not true. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn how to leverage all the skills that I learned in college, which is not something that is taught. And so there was a lot of teaching I still had to do after investing $50,000. And so I was able to go back to the drawing board. I learned how to leverage those skills. I studied. I went and sat in under a few mentors. And I went back to the drawing board, started reapplying to positions, and I was able to negotiate my first salary. And I was 22 at the time. And I finally got what it felt like to be wanted, to be deemed as valuable, for an organization to say there are some skill sets that we see in you that we want. And I wanted every student to feel like that. I wanted them to skip the buyer's remorse feeling that I felt after graduation, you know, after we throw the cookout.
Right.
I wanted them to skip that and just be able to say, okay, I did these things. I'm ready to like transition into my career path. And so because that was my story, that's how I kind of started my journey. Before there was an Excellence Academy, there was my first book, The College Strategy, but it was all about leveraging your post-high school pathway. A book is not enough. Me coming to do a 90-minute keynote is not enough. Those are opportunities for me to plant very, I would say strategic seeds. But it doesn't allow transformation, and a program does. And so that's how the Excellence Academy was birthed. I wanted to work hands-on with the student. I wanted to be a part of their journey. I wanted to be able to sit with them, watch the transformation, coach them along the way. And so that's how the Excellence Academy was birthed. And so we have served 5. We just completed our 5th cohort this summer.
Nice.
So I guess I should sit down and count how many students that is. But we just started doing that type of coaching work in 2019. So it's fairly new, but definitely a privilege to do so. You know, I always say it's an honor when a parent trusts me with their pride and joy. It's a huge honor. It's not something that I take lightly. I don't care how, you know, parents won't admit this, but some parents don't like their kids, right? But depending on how, if you like them, if you don't like them, it's still an honor that they would trust me with them. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And if you could, because both of my children did participate in the program. I have a daughter who is now 3rd year at Morgan State University. Shout out to Sydney. And I have a son who is in his 2nd year at Bowie State University. Shout out to Isaiah. And they both had the privilege of being mentored and coached by Lanita. So for the parent that their ears may be perked up a little bit more, can you let us know a little bit about what you do with those youth when they come to you or are assigned to you in this program?
Oh my gosh. When I think about all that we do in that short bit of time, we might need more time. Okay. I'm gonna pull a few things out of the curriculum. So we meet weekly for an hour. This is virtual. And from the gamut of things, it started off being just about career development. That was the curriculum. Getting students to get connected to what I call their intersection, where their ideal industry meets their dream pathway. So that's what we call the hot zone, getting them to make a connection with that. But I learned after working with so many of them, some of them couldn't even get there because they lacked organizational skills, they lacked belief, they lacked the ability to articulate their interests or identify them. So I ended up going back to expand the curriculum to meet those very, what I call basic life skills. And so everything from organization, like how to organize your calendar, your schedule, because a lot of students, my ideal student is very busy. They're very like high achieving. They don't got time for me, basically. Right. They're making time for our little session together. And so teaching them how to utilize a what we call a traditional calendar or digital calendar, the importance of that, deadlines. We also go over the power of visualization and affirmation, affirming themselves, and then what visualization looks like, because some of them are aiming to achieve something so big it seems unattainable. But actually getting them to like sit down and, okay, map out your day. If you were in that thing, what would that feel like? What would you be wearing? Who would be there? How much would you be getting paid? What car are you going to be driving?
Right.
That puts like an emotional attachment, and it gives them more, I guess, energy or zest to pursue it. So those are just some of the things. I'm trying to think. They also walk away with their own professional portfolio. This is something that we just added in, because my whole teaching is that excellence is the standard. I tell them this all the time. When you receive your college degree, you are meeting a minimum eligibility requirement. And the goal is to not be average or minimum in any capacity. The goal is to exceed the expectations, and that's excellence. And so the way you do that, you should always be building. You should always have something tangible to show your character, your competencies, and what you could bring to an organization. You do that by way of a portfolio. So small things like that. And, these are very mature skills. These are 15, 16, 17-year-olds.
Right.
And I have to tell them, I say this all the time, like, you're quite capable. While I'm asking of you to be and think very mature, you're capable. And so, yeah. So those are some of the things we discussed. And this year we added in parent sessions.
Nice.
Because I find that a student is comfortable with casting their goals and desires on me. But to have them say it amongst their family and friends, they ain't too comfortable with that.
Right.
And to me, that was an opportunity to bridge home communication. And so we started introducing study hall, in which all families represented. They have the options, highly encouraged, but they have the option to join in so we can strengthen that relationship. And so at a very nutshell, and again, that's 16 weeks of curriculum. I only talked about a few, but those are some of the things that we do go over.
So if you really enjoyed what you just heard from Lanita, she has a show on Facebook Live, every Thursday at 8 p.m. called Teenage Thursdays. It's for youth, but it's also for parents. And I believe in her work. I believe in her show, the things that she talks about. One of the reasons why she inspires me is because, as she mentioned, she's a communications major. When I do tune in and listen to her, I'm always impressed with her articulation of the things that she talks about, the way in which she actually communicates, because that's like something that's important to me, learning how to communicate and articulate the things that you're thinking about, which is what I talk to my students about at work all the time. And so when I watch Teenage Thursdays and I've listened to Lanita, those kind of things kind of stand out to me. But the biggest thing that I encourage you to do as my followers today, those who are checking us out, if you want to learn more about how to talk to your children, about things related to goal setting, time management, as it relates to strategic planning, getting ready for college or transitioning from college to career, I definitely believe you should check Lanita out. This is every Thursday at 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. And it's called Teenage Thursdays. It's a 30-minute show.
Yep, sometimes less than that. And I'm a hit it quitter. Yep.
So I definitely encourage you to do that. She's also on Instagram at Lanita Hostin. But the biggest takeaway when I think about what Lanita does, it's her passion, right? When we have passion for what it is that we do, what we believe in, I think that kind of resonates with people. Even if the content isn't always where our mind is at the moment, we glean something
true.
from it because of the passion that's coming from it. It causes us to kind of sit up straight and kind of tune in and really hear what the person is saying. And so just watching her journey, again, I knew her from the time she was in middle school to see where she is now. It's amazing because you don't always have the privilege of watching your students grow and evolve, and once they become adults to see how they're doing or where they're going. So in the short time we have, Lanita, I'd like to know what most stands out to you about this current journey with Excellence Academy.
Yeah, I feel like there's an untapped market to bridge home relationships to talk about career path, career development. That's not a common kitchen living room conversation. Common kitchen living room conversations are dating, sex, health, eating, body, but career is not common. Not the strategic plan to achieve the career, but the conversation about what you like to do. Yes, that's common, but how are you? What's the plan to get there? Let's walk through that. There's an opportunity to bridge a community at home to kind of like rally for our students and their career interests. Yeah.
No, and I'm glad you said that because one of the things I find as a parent, so I would probably be considered a hands-off parent when I think about what you're talking about, but I definitely appreciated being able to have conversation with my children about their journey and the decision making that was involved with that. And the one thing I'll leave with my audience today, I said to my children, I can't say, figure it out, think about where you're trying to go, because I wanted them to learn how to be independent thinkers of me. And I can't then be upset about the decisions that they make. So I just want to share that with my audience. And thank you again. On the other side of our break, we're going to talk to Lanita about her book. All right, welcome back, everybody. Again, this is Believe, where we look to inspire, influence, and impact our audience, those who are tuning in, whether you're checking out this session live or you're looking at the playback. My desire is to be able to leave you with information where you feel like you are empowered from where you are now to where you're trying to go. And today, for the first time, I have a guest. This is the fourth Sunday. Every second and fourth Sunday, our show airs at 6 o'clock. Our guest is Lanita Hostin, former student. She's also an award-winning speaker, author, and an entrepreneur. We've been talking about her journey in Excellence Academy. But we also today now are going to talk about the pursuit of Black excellence with teens. So that's the title of your next book. Lanita, tell us about it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you probably caught a theme here. Excellence is in everything that we done talked about. The Excellence Academy, Pursuit of Black. I got on the excellence shirt. So my personal motto is excellence in everything, every time. It's rooted in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 10, which says, "Whatever you fix your hand to do, do it with your might." And that's just a fancy way of saying when you get the opportunity to do something, do it above, like go above and beyond. And so I've adapted that principle, and now I teach it to my students. And so what I'm learning with the Excellence Academy, there are a lot of students who have no connection to their innate natural skills and abilities. That's like foreign. It's almost like, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I like. I don't know. Like, they know how to get to the baby on the gram, but they don't know, like, this is like what I can do with my eyes closed. This is what people say I do well. This is something I've adapted without very little teaching. I could do this proficiently. And so the Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens was an opportunity to help like teens focus on establishing and getting clarity about those things, those skills, those innate abilities. I have a natural skill of working with kids. I realized that working at a summer camp with Parks and Recreation. That allowed me to be Fairmont Heights High School cheerleading coach, and I ain't never been a cheerleader before. So those skills were transferring. They were all like associated with like the work that I do now. See, God gives us very little gems along the way. We're responsible for making the connection. So in my mind, because I'm excellence over everything, I'm looking for ways to get the minds of our teens focused on that. Like, who am I? What do I have to bring to the table? Because the goal is that I would be fulfilling an ultimate purpose. So the Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens, actually, it was named by my mentee. She's a junior. Shout out to Clark. She said, I think it should be called, because I was going to call it the Excellence Book. She's like, that's terrible. I wouldn't open that. And, we should ask our kids, when we're creating something for them, we should ask them, what do you think? She was like, no. She was like, what about it should say the pursuit of something. The pursuit, what about the pursuit of Black excellence for teens? I said, now we're popping. And so she named the book, but essentially it's not a book that you read, it's a book that you do. So it's broken down into 3 segments. The first one is self-excellence, and that's all about self-discovery. Exercises, prompts, stories, quizzes, mix, match. So I'm thinking about everything I could think of, pulling all my little straws out the hat to get them excited about discovering who they are. The second segment is community excellence, because the goal is once I have a connection between who I am, I can very clearly see opportunities and how I can impact my community. That's building my self-esteem too. We're also teaching them very transferable skills that gives them work experience, because the goal at the end, this last segment, is life excellence. And that's just being a good steward over the time God gives you. All of that is connected to your clarity of self.
Yes.
And so I just feel like the more I can just get like tools like this out, that we're helping our kids like be a valuable asset. Be a valuable asset to today's world. So in a very nutshell, that's what it is. It's a workbook broken down into 3 segments. I don't call it a workbook, I call it a collection. Because words matter when you're talking to our kids. But the activities and prompts, I think it's good. This is what I want to share about it. I'm going to be quiet. We also talk about the Buy Black movement, where it came from, Marcus Garvey, his history, and a lot of key pivotal moments in Black history. That's why it's called Black Excellence, because part of that is them getting very clear on where they've come from. And so there's a sense of pride that comes with that too. So you working on, okay, I got these skills, this is who I am, I can attach this to my community. This is what some trailblazers have done before me. Now what can I do to prepare for a life of excellence? So that's the workbook. Infused in it are QR codes too. So we have some guests, what we call trailblazers. They come in, I said 90 seconds or less, get straight to the point. These kids got short attention spans. And so, but they're all related to the topic: goal setting, identifying your interests, how they met their mentor, and people who look like them. So I'm excited about it. Honestly, people say, this is my best album, this the best record. Like, but when I think about it, when I look back over the drafts, I'm like, this is good, and this is greater than just me. It's not just a workbook that Lanita made. It's a book that God is going to use to bless His children for sure. And I feel good about that.
And this is a first, ladies and gentlemen. I have never talked to Lanita about the book. She told me it was coming out in November 2021. So I told her, I said, look, I'm going to make sure I get my copy. But this is my first time actually hearing about it. And I hear a historical perspective that is included in the content of this book. I'm also hearing that it's interactive.
Yep.
And so for the person that reads the book, they're really, like you said, it's not just about reading, but it's also about activity. Like the way I would summarize it, one thing I've learned in being an educator, when you can get your students, as a parent, if you can get your children to not only read but write about the content that they're learning, and also have some hands-on activity related to the content that they're both reading and writing, they're going to remember more. They're going to take in more. It's going to be deposited within them than if they're just trying to memorize something. So I love that part about the book, because the reading, the engagement, the historical perspective, it's going to reinforce even more the value of this book. So in the process of creating this book, what stood out to you the most?
Okay, well, what stood out was the most difficult parts. Self-excellence was easy because that's kind of what I do now. But connecting, like getting them to value their involvement in community, using language that would matter to them. I didn't write it as if someone my age would sit there. I had to write it as if someone 16 and 15, that it would resonate with them enough that they continue to turn the page. Everything from the colors to the images that are used, the persons whom are talked about, all of that is very intentional. And so writing a workbook or anything interactive is way more difficult than writing a book. I did learn that for sure. And I also learned that I couldn't do it on my own. So I initially started, and I said, wait a minute, this piece is way beyond my... So I had to actually hire a curriculum writer.
Nice.
And it's so funny, when you hire somebody, you already got a vision, they got a vision. Sometimes that thing down the line, I'm like, no, come on now, reel it back in. No, this is what I'm looking for. And so we had to have, like, my bishop calls it intense fellowship. We had a little intense fellowship, but the intent was, I want them to walk away being very clear of themselves, where they come from, and how they can use that. So everything else is, let's like get it back in. And she did mention, the woman that I work with, that the writing skills of students now have a critical need to be developed. And she was very keen on writing exercises. They need to practice writing. And so a lot of that is in there. My favorite writing exercise is them writing out their life bio. So we use our current Vice President Kamala Harris's bio there, and we say, take a look at what she's achieved. Now, not saying that you want to be in politics, but whatever it is that you've already identified, write out your bio as if it already happened. So things like that they could be excited about and clearly, interested in.
No, I love that too, because what I'm learning as a writing teacher is, if we really want to see our children write, beyond learning like the strategies that involve adding the periods and the commas, they have to be able to write about things that they're interested in.
That's true.
We have to be able to let them learn how to identify their interests and incorporate it in the writing, which is what you're doing in this book. But also the critical thinking, being able to reflect. If they're always being told what to think about and what to write about, it's not their content.
You preach.
They have to learn how to take time to reflect, think, what are my thoughts, and then put it on paper. This is what I'm explaining to my own students. Like, writing is a skill all by itself. Talking is a skill all by itself. Thinking is a skill. Those things don't just happen. And so if we want our kids to develop those skills, we got to put them in an environment where they're going to be able to do that. And in the classroom, sometimes it could be hard because there's a lot of things distracting them. But that's what I love about your book. So in the short time that we have, what I want to do is allow Lanita to talk to us about how she makes belief or believe related to her own journey. So, Lanita, on the subject of believe, what have you learned in your own journey as an author, as an entrepreneur, as a public speaker? How do you connect believe to your journey?
I would say the evolution of my work did not start until I had belief that it was possible. I think in my mind, First, I never envisioned any of this, by the way. I was fine with what I was doing. Whatever that was. This wasn't in the plan. I never saw myself being in front of thousands of persons and speaking. In fact, I'd rather be in the background. But once I got comfortable being in the front where God was leading me to, I realized that all of the things that I desired to happen, they didn't start manifesting until I actually would say to myself, it's possible. So you can conceptualize something, have a visualization of it, but you have lack of belief. And I feel like sometimes that's a mental barrier for you actually taking the action steps. So I say as a part of my journey, I've had to accept where God has sent me. And then I'm responsible for moving my little legs and hands and actually doing the work. That's me showing up, belief in action.
I love that. Put your faith to work. That's one of my mottos. To me, believe means putting your faith to work. It's having enough confidence in yourself to act, and then God makes up the difference.
Yeah.
One thing I'm learning now is I'm not responsible for the outcomes. God is, but I am responsible to do the work to allow the outcome to manifest. And so God wants to bless us. So believe, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we try to do: inspire, influence, impact. Thank you for joining us. Lanita Holston was my guest. Thank you, Vision and Purpose Media Productions. We'll see you in November.